We proudly welcome to the stage, he co-founded the Gay Men's Health Crisis in 1981, and in 1987 he founded ACT UP, the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, now with some 100 chapters around the world. He's the author of Normal Hearts, Faggots, Report from the Holocaust, The Making of an AIDS Activist. His new play, The Furniture at Home, will premiere in London in the fall. He's HIV positive. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Kramer.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's very moving. It's very moving to see so many of you here too. The sermon for today, I call it Love, Anger, Responsibility, and Obligation, or Holding Hands is Holding Ground. I would like to dedicate my remarks today to 4 of our really greatest leaders who are no longer with us this year. Tom Hannon, who founded the Community Research Initiative and the PWA Buyers Club. You don't remember back, but Tom was the man who made it possible for us to begin to think about getting drugs, treatments on our own that the government wouldn't allow us and still doesn't allow us to have. Tom died just a few weeks ago. Phil Zwickler, from the PWA Coalition, an incredible filmmaker, a really passionate writer, and a good friend. Lee Arsenal, from the Treatment and Data Committee of ACT UP. You don't know his name perhaps, but you should. Lee was one of the small group who courageously boarded himself inside Burroughs Welcome in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. And who also was one of the small group that got inside the stock exchange and for the first time in history stopped business trading on the floor. Those 2 acts resulted in not 1 but 2 price reductions in the cost of AZT. And finally, of course, our beloved Vito Russo. There never was and there never will be anyone like Vito. I want to make a hopeful speech. I want to send you away from here cheering our future and our successes and our victories. God, but it's hard to do that, to be hopeful today. I don't understand the world anymore. Or rather, I understand, but I don't like it very much. I said I wanted to talk about love. Last weekend at my house in the country, I introduced 2 friends of mine to each other. David and Dan took one look at each other, and you could just see the sparks fly. They were wildly attracted to each other. But for the remainder of that evening and that weekend, David and Dan did their absolute best to stay completely out of range of the other one. You never saw 2 guys playing such games. You never saw 2 such handsome, vital, intelligent men so intimidated by the prospect of this attraction that they acted like total idiots. You've all seen it, we've all done it ourselves. Finally, after each one of them had told me how much he was attracted to the other and still wasn't anywhere near the other one, I screamed at each one separately, "Why are you wasting time? We don't have this kind of time to waste. Each second is precious. Such attraction is precious. Love is precious. Oh, how precious is love. Why are you wasting so much precious time not loving each other? Yes, today, like everything else, I know it's harder to love. We have endured so much. I don't know how a people can be asked to endure so much. Just when we think things couldn't get any worse, they get worse. We thought nobody could be worse than Reagan. Bush is worse than Reagan. Reagan was out to lunch. Bush knows exactly what he's doing. We thought nobody could be worse than Koch. Dinkins, certainly a far more human being, is doing a simply dreadful job. Cuomo, like Bush, knows how to say all the right things and do absolutely nothing. Together, all these horrible elected leaders have worn us out. By continually ignoring us, they force us to protest, and our voices and our bodies become hoarse and exhausted. Bush and his henchpeople know exactly how to play us. They ignore us. We yell and scream, we get exhausted, we get ignored, and soon our exhaustion silences us. When we are so hated by so many, how can we love ourselves and each other in times like these? The other way. In short, the period was just like any other. Yes, somehow we have endured. We are still here. Tomorrow, hundreds of thousands of us will march. A quieter ACT UP still performs miraculous deeds. We boycotted Philip Morris, and for the first time in history, we won a historic settlement. No major industry has ever been forced to so capitulate to gay and lesbian demands. There are 15 drugs out there that wouldn't be if it weren't for ACT UP's pressure. Last week, a judge in this very city agreed with us that it was okay to distribute free needles even though it's against the law. This too is another historic ACT UP victory. Yes, somehow we have endured. Some of us. Some of us are still here. Thank God. Thank God some of us are still here. So it is incumbent upon us. It is not a choice, but it is a necessity, an obligation, a responsibility that we must repay fate or God or our souls or whatever you believe in for this privilege of still being here, of still being alive, of not being tortured to death with the pain and agony of one of the many plagues that assault us daily, be it AIDS or homophobia or racism, whatever hate they are hurling at us. We are here and we are still standing and we have not lost ground. Indeed, we are gaining ground. We now have organizations. Now we must define them. We must refine them into something more efficient. We must delegate authority and designate leadership roles. And by efficiently, I mean model our organization on armies with cadres and battalions and lieutenants and generals, because we are in a war. And we must respond in kind, and our responses are becoming too ineffectual. ACT UP has person power, but organizationally it is chaos. Queer Nation has person power, but ideologically it is unfocused and many times quite foolish. GMHC has resources of every kind, but though getting more courageous under Tim Sweeney and Jeff Soroff, it is still far too timid. It is also becoming too heterosexual, and we must never forget that this historic organization was started by gay men, and you're looking at one of them. These organizations and a few others are our army, the army that is going to save us. As in wartime, an army must have troops. You must, each and every one of yourselves, draft yourself into an organization. Everyone who has ever been a member of ACT UP or Queer Nation or GMHC or any other organization must return for service. It might not be as much fun as it once was, but wartime isn't fun. Grin and bear it, but please, I beg of you, go back. If you find flaws and faults in these organizations, instead of just bitching, help to change them. We must stop. We must stop this continual divisive bickering, color against color, gender against gender. I am sick and tired of hearing about sexist and racist turf battles. We are all one. We are all queer. We are all wonderful together. It is becoming more and more pointless going after David Dinkins and Mario Cuomo and all the local ineptitudes. There simply is no money. The power and the money reside in one man and one place, George Bush and his idiots in the White House. That is where the power is, and that is where all the trickle-down hate starts. We must concentrate our armies and our anger on this one man at the top. All of us against George Bush. On September 1st in Kennebunkport, Maine, ACT UPs everywhere will begin 30 days of nationwide actions directed against George Bush and his do-nothing administration. Please, I beg of you, get involved with this. If you don't know about it, network with ACT UP. Storm Kennebunkport on September 1st. We must do all of this together, whether we want to or not. Make a pledge today. I am going to get actively involved in some organization fighting for the lives of all my sisters and brothers. Holding hands is holding ground. In this day and age, holding hands is a heroic act. And we must hold hands with someone who is sitting next to us. That's how we gain ground. Vito Russo's mother, Anne, wrote me this letter last week. Dear Larry, I too have the anger and the rage over our government's lack of caring and concern. I too hate George Bush and all he stands for, and that hatchet-faced phony Reagan. They killed my beloved son Vito, as surely as they would have pulled a trigger or given him poison, which they did with all their homophobic words and hatred. They killed my son, not the AIDS virus. And I hate each of them. I am so angry and with so much bitterness inside of me that I had to lose my beautiful Vito so soon in his life that he loved so much. He and tens of thousands of others like him should be alive today, enjoying their lives. Larry, I hear the frustration of your anger, as I have heard the same frustration and anger from my Vito many times. My heart aches for all of you, but please don't ever lose hope. Fight for what you believe in. If you truly love Vito, don't let his hopes and dreams die in vain. Please don't despair. Remember, there is a judgment day for everyone. They will suffer the pangs of hell for what they have done on earth, and that goes for the biggest one, Cardinal O'Connor, too. I want you to know I wear Vito's silence equal death button everywhere I go. I promised him I would. Don't ever give up. Love to you all, Ann Russo. I'm tired. I'm as tired and depressed as everyone else. I'm tired of battling hate. George Bush is hate. The Supreme Court is now hate. But I also know I must go on. We must all go on. We must get up every morning and believe that we will somehow live through these years of horror, and that somehow, from somewhere, we must summon up some kind of strength and hope and belief and energy to fight this seemingly never-ending battle of hate. Believe. I must believe. We must believe. We must believe this war will soon be over. We must believe that a cure for this plague will soon be found, and that we shall all live to see our futures. We must believe that one day a president will be elected who will believe that we are all equal, every one of us, and that we shall no more be hated. And we must believe, we must always believe, we must never stop believing that in memory of every single beloved one whom we want back here in our arms, we can somehow find the energy to fight and fight and fight until we have won. And we must love one another. David and Dan and Jill and Jane must stop this silly bullshit and say, hello, I think you're wonderful. Can we please hold each other and be strong together, stronger together than as one? Because I want to love her. I want to love you. I want you to love me back. I want not to be afraid. Then we shall have our future together under this sun, all of us, in loving memory of Phil and Tom and Lee and Vito, and fill in your own names, for each of us now has far too many to mourn. We must honor them. We are obligated to honor them. We must not let their deaths be in vain. And doing that, we must honor ourselves. Act up! You better all be at the ACT UP meeting, you hear? One, two, Larry Kramer. Don't go away, we have two more acts left, please. Almost over.